So President Trump, of course, has promised to make America great again, to upgrade things tremendously on several levels, including the financial level for everyday Americans across the country. But if you watch the news, no matter what network or station you watch, there's a lot of chaos and confusion out there. And I think that's natural anytime changes occur. The media and the public responds with some chaos. And that chaos and confusion can cause greater confusion for a lot of retirees and people planning for retirement is what I meant to say. People planning for retirement, investing, the investment community. You know, we see the markets going up and down. We hear talk about Social Security's future, about Medicaid, and so on and so forth. And budget cuts to federal workers. What's all that mean? Should there be so much chaos in the news cycle? And what does it mean to everyday Americans when they go out and invest their money? And joining me at this time is wealth manager from Dynamic Wealth Advisors in Phoenix, Arizona. He's well-renowned, well-respected across the country, and he's author of a new book called Wealth Your Way. Let's welcome Urban Adams. Urban, good to have you with us. You know, in your book, Wealth Your Way, you cover many of these issues, so I would like to get your opinion here. With all the chaos and all the reporting extremely this way, extremely that way, when it comes to the financial situation in America, how are people supposed to grasp this and make financial decisions with their investments?
Well, thanks, Rick, and thanks for having me back. I would say the short answer to that is for any investors to keep their long-term perspective in view and try to tune out some of the noise that happens in the short term, because what we try to focus on in our financial planning that I do with my clients is focusing on not only the long term, focusing on your plan and focusing on the things that we can control with respect to your plan. And that includes, among many other things, the investing strategy.
So yeah, keep a long-term perspective. Are my numbers accurate here? The S&P 500 historically every 10 years returns about a 10% average. Is that still accurate?
It is, and I don't have the exact data at my fingertips, but what I would say is that on average, we're looking at historically 3 out of every 4 years, roughly speaking, are positive years for the market.
Okay.
The other, that fourth year doesn't happen in any particular or predictable order. However, historically, that's been the average. So 3 out of 4 years tend to be positive. And that's what we aim for. And what we do with my clients is plan for what's known as sequence of return risk, meaning you could have identical 10-year periods, identical returns, but depending on when those down years occur, which chances are there's probably 2 of them in that 10-year period, will affect your outcomes. So what we try to do is manage for that inconsistency of those returns that might otherwise be rather positive long term.
I understand what you're saying. And coming back to the initial question, your comment was keep the viewers out there, keep the long-term view, don't get caught up in the chaos and the extreme reporting in the media. But as you said, those down years will affect the returns. How should that play into someone's thinking right now?
Well, it depends on where they are in respect to relying on their investments for income. So those who maybe are a few years away from retirement age, 5, 10 or more, it should look at, hey, this, an opportunity in a down market is an opportunity to buy more of what you are accumulating for retirement.
Yeah.
For those who are closer to 5 years or less, you probably want to create some strategy within your investments to create that insulation so that you're not as impacted by that downturn. Think back to the individuals who were retiring right into 2008. If they weren't properly allocated, they could have seen their portfolios drastically impacted, and also would have drastically changed their outlook as far as what they'd be able to spend in retirement long term.
But that almost seems to contradict, keep the long-term perspective.
It can sound counterintuitive. For those who are closer to retirement, the retirement is not an end date. That's just the beginning of the next phase of their investments. In some cases, someone's retiring at 65 and they live to 90. We're not planning for 5 or 10 years. We're planning for 30, right? 25 or 30 years potentially. And that's why it's really a long-term perspective, regardless of where you are. Your investing strategy can inform based on where you are in those various stages of life.
How does the news cycle affect the Urban Adams of the world, the financial advisors, wealth managers?
Well, I try to practice what I preach, and that is try not to get too caught up in the day-to-day noise.
Yeah.
It can be very distracting. For some, it could be not very positive, and I think that to some extent it can get you caught up and in a cycle of not really feeling all that positive about the future, rather than focusing on the present, enjoying the present, without losing sight of the fact that you're planning for potentially 30, 40, 50 years in advance.
All right. Urban Adams, your book just came out. It's called Wealth Your Way. And you mentioned before we went on the air, I want to tell our viewers that you're giving a free copy to the first 10 people who request it.
Yes.
What is your email address? We'll show it on the screen here, but give it out.
Yeah, please. It is urban.adams@dynamicwealthadvisors.com. And you see the spelling right behind me there, hopefully.
So, folks, if you email Urban Adams directly, those first 10 viewers who send an email to Urban receive a free copy of Wealth Your Way. And gosh darn, with all we see in this new Trump White House, the exciting news, but then the negative reporting, and we see some chaos in the markets. Sounds like a timely book at a good time. Urban, you are a wealth manager at Dynamic Wealth Advisors in Phoenix, well known across America for what you do. We thank you for joining us.
Thanks as always, Rick.